Red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light.
Well, folks, as I say, as an old good Scotsman catchphrase, pull up a pint and pull up a chair because it's time for another episode of the Soul Sessions, of course, featuring me, Soul. But with me today, you've heard his voice all around from New Japan to Noah to Marigold to Progress and to Rev Pro. He is also the co-founder of Pro Wrestling Ceasefire alongside the great Chuck Mambo, and he's a man of many, many talents. Giovanni Giorgio, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I wish everywhere I went, someone hyped me up the way you just did. That was something special. I feel very great now.
It's the Scottish charm, you know. Whenever we have tourists coming over for our Fringe Festival, we always give them the good amount of endorsements because their money do fix our roads. So we kind of need that to make sure we can actually go places. So we like to do that as the Scottish charm. But you know, Gio, as I do with every guest has a story, and every story has a beginning. Gio, how did your story begin as a wrestling fan?
Oh boy, as a wrestling fan, it begins in 2004. So I would have been, let's do some quick maths here. I would have been 8 or 9. Yeah, that adds up. I would have been 8 or 9, and my brother and I were visiting our cousins in Italy. They lived in an apartment in Rome, and I don't think I knew about wrestling at all at this point. I'd maybe, seen wrestling toys in shops or at car boot sales, but I didn't know what they were. And they were watching wrestling in Italian on Sky, and I'm so sure it was either Velocity or SmackDown they were watching. So it was an episode of SmackDown or Velocity from 2004. I can't remember who the wrestlers were, but I remember my brother and I just going, "Oh my God, we're hooked." But when we went back to England, we didn't have Sky at the time. Well, woe is me. And we didn't have any means to watch it. And none of our friends knew about it or watched it either. So it wasn't until about a year later in 2005, our parents got Sky. And so we watched, WWE Experience, The Bottom Line. We'd pool our money together to buy the pay-per-view and record it and watch it in bits after school the next day. So the first proper wrestling I can remember, my brother and I agree that the first main event we remember seeing is a triple threat match on an 2005 episode of Raw. Big Show versus Kane versus Shawn Michaels. Underrated banger in my opinion. And I believe it was the week before that year's Taboo Tuesday, because they were the 3 opponents I believe you could pick to fight for the title. But that is about as early as I can remember with my brother. And then we got into it. That must have been October, November, and then my brother immediately and myself became huge Eddie Guerrero fans. We had this 10-minute teaser of his DVD that we watched on a loop, and then one day I came down before him to look at WWE.com before we started school, and I saw that he died, and I couldn't process it. I was like, what? We've just gotten into wrestling. This is his favorite guy. So I actually hid it from him for like a month because I don't know why. My instinct was to hide it from him. And then eventually he was like, I think Eddie Guerrero is dead. And I was like, yes, he is. Very sad. I don't know why. I don't know why I thought to protect him from it. But yeah, got into wrestling. Then Eddie Guerrero died. But, he's everyone's favorite for a reason. That guy's the GOAT. EGGOAT.
Hey, absolutely, brother, as well. And it's fascinating as well because you say you got into wrestling as a kid. For me, I only got into wrestling in 2019 when I was, in my second year of university. And it's very interesting how wrestling can get a new audience across the age barrier. You can get into wrestling when you're younger or older or even a lot older. Why do you think wrestling in particular has that ability to gain entry points across the age barriers?
Oh, that's a really good and interesting question. I think at every age and every time you up a stage in life, there's something different about it that appeals to you. So when you're a kid, it's just this in your face, flashing lights, stuff you've never seen before. And it hooks that part of your brain, I think, in the same way that, like, Action Man and Power Rangers does. And then you get a little bit older and the edgier stuff appeals to you. And then as, a young adult or an adult, even when the magic is shattered, but you then appreciate it in another way, your tastes are into stuff. You've got like your Breaking Bad, your Game of Thrones, and you find yourself, even though you're consuming that as a form of entertainment, you are sort of subconsciously, or even maybe you do discuss it with your mates on a deeper level at the pub, like why you like something about character X, or why, you know, the blurred lines of morality, good and bad. And I think, especially with American wrestling, where it's more of a morality play, and you know, British wrestling as well has we're way out of the world of sport era, and American wrestling and British wrestling are pretty intertwined. But it's that morality play, so you know, you've got your characters and your favorites, and I'm really enjoying more and more this idea of the anti-hero. Well, I mean, it's not a new idea, is it, with you know, Stone Cold and Punk, but it's become more of a fixture, whereas before it would be sort of like an anomaly. We're getting more blurred lines, and I think people just enjoy breaking it down. I mean, there seems to be more and more analysis on wrestling than there's ever been, but still at every level, you know, you go to any British wrestling show, I mean, venue depending, you do have people of all ages there. Sometimes it's the kids dragging the parents along, and sometimes it's the parents dragging the kids along. And I tell you what, I think more often than not, the parent is dragging their kids along.
Hey, I mean, it just shows that wrestling is a universally loved thing, and it transcends not only just age but language as well. Fans can be fans of, you know, a Japanese style and then speak English, or speak France and then, you know, love the American style. It transcends that whole wide barrier. But also, we've seen with wrestling as well that the barrier of kayfabe has been truly shattered. It's gone. It's out the wind. No more curtain call. It was done on Netflix to millions of people with nice little curtains dropping, so it's gone now. Do you think for children getting in, with that barrier of kayfabe gone, it would be different for them than before, for kids in the early 2000s and even the 90s?
I think on some level, unless you really go digging, it isn't in your face. Like, you know, you and I will pick up on the fourth wall breaks or the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but that can just go completely over a kid's head, which I do enjoy. I mean, as much as I can, I like to keep the magic alive. You know, I've run a variety of different events. I've run like your trying to be really super cool indie, and I've run, you know, your camp show. The sign just says wrestling, foam fingers, that kind of thing. So, you know, at the foam finger shows, we're really trying to keep that magic alive. And for the most part, you know, they really, really do still believe it and they're into it. But even with WWE opening the door wider than ever and having these press conferences and documentaries and behind the scenes, I mean, that's something a consumer at our level is going to watch. You know, the kid just wants to watch Penta versus Pete Dunne. He's not going to go, "Oh, Daddy, can I watch WWE LFG?" He's not going to do that. That's something you seek out. The actual core product, you know, Raw on Netflix. If well, I'm not going to give away how old I was when I realized the jig was up. It was embarrassingly late. But let's say, you know, 6-year-old Timmy's watching Raw on Netflix. There's nothing in there that's going to make him go, "Oh wow, I really enjoyed that scripted television show." He's going to go, "Whoa, that Canadian destroyer was sick." You know, so I think the magic can be kept alive, but if you go digging enough or you're curious enough, yeah, it'll be quicker to get it spoiled these days than it was for me. I mean, you know, I used to just obsessively want to know the name of every single wrestling move. So I'd always be on Wikipedia looking up like the moves, like Scoop, Brainbuster, Danger Bomb, and then like one day I saw the word scripted and I went. So I think if a kid went digging these days, the magic could be killed a lot quicker. But even then, you know, it didn't kill my love for it. Other things have tried to, but they haven't succeeded. And here I am, you know, 20 years later, more involved in wrestling than I ever thought I would be.
He's still standing, folks. The magic may have been shattered, but it still remains in the little presence that it has. And you got to love that about professional wrestling. Also, you mentioned your love for Eddie Guerrero, and that era, 2000s, mostly, is the Ruthless Aggression era. A very key moment for a lot of fans as well. And obviously, we're seeing one of the big stars from that era, John Cena, retire this year. The time is now. It's up. It's over at the end of the year. But obviously, something we've seen with wrestling is a lot of documentaries and films. Look at something like The Iron Claw. There's a NWA Women's movie coming out as well in a couple of months, I believe, as well. For John Cena, would you love to see him get a autobiography movie style treatment about his career in WWE?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the more we can all understand how that man's mind works, the industry will be better off for it. He is the hardest working, not just wrestler, just athlete, person in the game of the last 25 years. He has never not had a six pack. It sounds like he barely sleeps. This is a man who, by his own admission, does not listen to music while he works out. He's just left alone with his own thoughts. That alone is terrifying. Um, but his body of work speaks for itself. You know, he started, on TV in '02, but he goes a bit early. I think he was training at UPW in 1999, then OVW. But he has lived through the evolution of the business, and he basically is the evolution of the business, because through most eras up until um let's say post 2015, 2016, he's been the constant. So the locker room around him has changed, the administration's changed, the way we consume wrestling has changed, but he's always been there and managed to be at the forefront of it. So I would love to see an in-depth documentary, but really, nothing cookie cutter. I want to get inside his head. And if we could get an unfiltered autobiography, no ghostwriter, I'll be the first person to pre-order a copy, because I love me a good wrestling autobiography. Big fan of Jericho's. They're good for stories. Regal's is unreal. I'm still making my way through Bret Hart, who's just behind me. I keep picking that one up and then getting sidetracked by my a million pies I have my fingers in. But I'd love an unfiltered, raw John Cena one, because that man, he's got 25 years of wrestling stories to tell. But I mean, outside of that, he's an interesting guy outside the ring as well. So I want to know what makes that guy tick.
Oh, that would be fascinating. See, I mean, who would you like to play? Would you have Cena play himself, or would you get some big Hollywood actor in for the role?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Do you go sort of meta like Nick Cage in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, or do you go like the Robbie Williams way and have him played by some sort of CGI animal? Who would be a good actor to play John Cena? I mean, if they could work out the de-aging technology, Jeff Goldblum has that same sort of, when you try and interview Jeff Goldblum, he goes on all these tangents, and I feel like that's very similar to Cena. So maybe either a de-aged Jeff Goldblum, or, I mean, I'm terrible at films. Who's young? I mean, let's be honest, whoever we want, they'll probably go with Timothy Chalamet. He seems to end up in anything. So Timothy Chalamet or Jeff Goldblum.
Just get him a latex muscle suit. It'll do the job for Hollywood's magic and tricks. But if I had to throw my name in the hat, I would say that actor on that Reacher show that's on Amazon, I think that'd be he's like a big muscly American guy. I think that'd be kind of cool. But I think
I know the guy you mean. Yeah,
it just shows the wideness and creativity of professional wrestling. You get those characters in it as well. Obviously as well, mate. That era is just so iconic. And some people say, "Oh, I love the Ruthless Aggression." Some people say, "I love the Attitude Era," and some people want that era to come back. But I feel you always have to keep moving forward and developing, because if you always go back, you're not going to make improvements. You'll not find new ways of matches that could work or new talent. Do you think for some professional wrestling fans, they're always still stuck in nostalgia, and it's always important to move forward with the business?
Nostalgia sells, and not just in wrestling. If you look across the board, music especially, the tours that make the most money a lot of the time are these big reunion tours. A lot of bands, the business plan from day one is, okay, guys, make it big, planned 10-year break, come back at the end, make a load of money. Everyone who gets into wrestling, even if they acknowledge and know that some of the stuff they watched when they started out is terrible, they have a soft spot for it. And that is, I mean, that's the magic of nostalgia. It's rose-tinted glasses. I mean, I've gone back and watched whole pay-per-views that I remember as a kid saving, like I said earlier, my brother and I would like pull together our pocket money, get our mum to buy it on Sky, record it. We'd have, a month or 60 days to watch it before it got deleted forever. But, maybe when I look back, what was actually fun was like the excitement, and my brain hadn't been completely addled by this constant stream of information and oh god, my brain is so fried by technology. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. It steals your focus. Just like we live with this little black rectangle in our hands. You don't need to be stimulated, right? Stimulation. That's the word I'm looking for. We're just constantly stimulated. So maybe what I remember is as a 10-year-old and my 8-year-old brother, it was the in school looking forward to getting home and watching it in bits, and not just now I can pick up this life ruiner and watch any wrestling match I want pretty much from any
Yeah.
era. Whereas, when you were younger, you had to earn for it, you had to search for it. When you get older, you had to get into tape trading. So I mean, I am nostalgic for that time in wrestling, but wrestling itself, it has to move forward, but only in some elements, because wrestling kind of operates on being full of tropes. I mean, if
Mm.
wrestling did truly evolve, it would have full-on VAR. The referees wouldn't fall for the same tricks night after night. So it's that sort of nudge nudge wink wink thing of the cameras get more expensive, the references get updated, the gear improves, the music improves, the style of wrestling and the speed and the way we consume it changes. But at the end of the day, um, it all falls back to that sort of who pulled my hair? We can't let that go because that's sort of the magic of it.
Mhm.
But that's what your more serious, Puroresu styles are for. If you're more into, your shoot style, your UWF.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It really just shows that nostalgia is very powerful, very very powerful, but can be benefits in some aspects where it's a business side or the popular stars return and people want to go see them in person. So it does have that beneficial effect for the business. But obviously, talking about the big companies, we obviously live on the UK, the shores of our own, and we have our own little scene. How did you first become knowledgeable of the UK independent scene?
Well, the way I started my journey that's led to where I am now is I started as a trainee. I was training in professional wrestling. And I'm very glad that a lot of the footage of it has been scrubbed from the internet or it's hard to find. Um, so I started at a training school in Kent in 2016. And then by virtue of being at a British wrestling training school, you learn about the scene that way. You crew at shows, the stars come in and you have guest sessions, or there's a training session before the show, so you're helping out of a show. You fall into it like very gradually and slowly. I mean, there were a lot of people in my class who were very knowledgeable about the scene. They knew about Rev Pro and Progress and ICW, and I mean, we're talking about 2016, so I'm probably going to list some companies that don't exist anymore. I was completely oblivious. I think I'd been to one independent show before that, which was it was Rev Pro. It was 2016. I want to say it was a high stakes. It was the one. It was AJ Styles' last one before he appeared in the Rumble, which I believe was high stakes 2016. That was the only independent show I'd been to before I started my training. So because that was the one I'd been to, I thought they were all like that. I didn't realize that was like their 4 times a year creme de la creme super show. So you can imagine my shock when I went to a few others afterwards. But the British scene is absolutely wonderful. Some of the best wrestling and the best wrestling I've seen and the best times I've had have been in sort of a shabbier sports hall, community hall. But if the wrestling is good and the vibe is there, it really doesn't matter. Um, but yeah, I mean, so I started as a trainee in 2016. Had some bad to acceptable matches, but also as I went, I wanted to do everything possible. I'd do refereeing, crewing, and then eventually, obviously, ring announcing and commentary as well. And ring announcing pays more, and I wouldn't say no bumping. There's less bumping. Sometimes I still get knocked about, but that's definitely where I think I found my place I belong
Mm.
in wrestling, which is important. I gave training a go, and I'm glad I did it because it gave me a more fundamental understanding about wrestling. and it's something that if I never gave a go, I'd always regret. So, you know, I won't have that regret when I'm older. Well, I will, because I'll be 60 and in crippling pain because of the damage I've done to my body in such a short amount of time, which makes me worry for my friends, because obviously they wrestle a lot more than me and a lot harder than me. But I'm glad I did it, so I don't have those regrets. And you know, sometimes it's important to give something a go and realize either it's not for you or you need to pivot. You know, if I insisted, no, I can be a wrestler, I can be WWE champion, I'd might be dead by now. But I realized that there is a place in this business for me, and it's to be the best broadcaster I can possibly be, and just to keep trying to improve not just my skills, but just improve broadcasting in wrestling across the whole. And I'm very grateful to the help and advice I've been given along the way by greats like Simon Cassidy, he is the best announcer in the UK. All right, the UK includes Scotland too, and Simon Cassidy is the #1 guy. I was very happy when we started talking to each other in 2019. Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton as well gave me lots of advice when I had my first job with New Japan in 2019. You know, we've got a really nice little broadcasting community. You know, we're always looking out for each other, always helping each other, giving each other, asking each other for advice, giving each other advice, and just, you know, hyping each other up. And I think that's really nice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's that great connective tissue that I think wrestling can offer between the roles of either ring announcer, interviewer, or even the wrestlers themselves, of that community aspect. I mean, I think we should find your wrestling footage so we can build you a cage match profile and we can give you all 10 ratings. Come on.
Come on, man. God. I mean, I can say I've wrestled in the electric ballroom, which is a crime against wrestling. I mean, I was crap. What was I doing there? I mean, you know, because I was like, you know, young and dumb. You know, you're not going to say no to an opportunity, but looking back, I shouldn't have taken it. But it's something I can say I've done.
Yeah, it's on the CV. It'll look good. It'll look good.
I don't include it on my CV when I contact people. My CV starts from 2019 onwards.
Hide away. That's where you keep it. Obviously, a lot of people know you for your ring announcing and broadcasting career, what you've done. Obviously, that first entry point into it. I remember when I did my first interview backstage at a wrestling show with Bleeding Gums, and I was shitting it. And I had necked 2 pints, and I was like, right, I feel good now. And it was like getting people and trying to obviously understand where things were going with the companies and the storylines. For yourself, how was it? Do you remember that moment, that feeling, the emotion of doing your first ring announcing and broadcasting show?
My first proper one, they threw me into the deep end. I did ring announcing for Progress Freedom's Road. Luckily, with that one, it was ring announcing from the booth, so it was a bit less pressure because I could have notes in front of me, etc. But I do remember absolutely shitting myself because, you know, I didn't have like a couple of warm-up gigs to ease me into it or start somewhere small. You know, it was, okay, here's the largest British wrestling promotion. It's a brand new project, so it has to go well, and you're the voice of it, so don't fuck it up. Luckily, I didn't, but I remember, you know, really putting a lot of pressure on myself. And something that comes with experience and time is not feeling no nerves, because if you, I can't remember who said this. Maybe it was Will who said this. I think it was. You know, if you don't feel a little bit nervous before the start of the show, your heart's not into it. So, you know, even though I'm very confident in my abilities now, and sometimes I feel like I'm sort of gliding through the shows effortlessly, before the show, I always have this little bit of oh, do I have this bit? Do I have that bit? That never goes away, and I'm glad it doesn't, because that's when you're sort of on autopilot, and you never want to do that. You want to be passionate and put your heart into it all the time. But the difference between my first gig and now is night and day. I actually, the other day, watched someone sent me some footage from an ACW show, which would have been in 2017, I think. And just hearing the difference in my method and my technique and voice from then to now. I mean, at the time, or like looking back, I would assume that the way I announce now is the way I've always announced, and that is not the case. I watched the main event intro from this match, and I did this. I was like, "Oh, turn it off! What the fuck is that?" I couldn't believe that skinny little straw was me. But yeah, it's fun to watch back on old footage. But yeah, I do remember being really, really nervous for my first ever announcing gig. And that from time to time, when I'll have like a steady level, and then like I'll get thrown into like Nippon Budokan, Kurikan Hall, really get scared during those moments. But just as soon as the lights come down and the music starts, I remember there's a reason I'm sat at this desk. It's because I'm trusted and I have a body of work that speaks for itself. So it's stay humble, but also remember, don't sell yourself short.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you are rewarded those opportunities because of the opportunities you have taken in the past, and they reward you and they show that you have that dedication. Like I don't like to watch my old episodes when I had a massive afro and that was terrible. Never again. Too unmanageable, and I went through too much shampoo in a month. I've learned my losses with that one, so I'm not going to take that there. But with like ring announcing and broadcasting, do you find yourself going more of a less bullet point structure, or do you like to go off the cuff sometimes?
When I first started, I would make too many notes. They would overwhelm me, and then if in a moment you do panic, and you refer to it, you're like, oh, which bit is important? Which bit do I need to pick out? What I do now, I've gotten very good. I mean, luckily because I've worked so regularly now, and the scene stays the same sort of for a number of years. Like the scene exists in these kind of blocks. I work with the same people time and time again, so just naturally I've memorized a lot of stuff. There's like if I go to a new wave, for example, I know all the guys' stuff there. The only times I'll need to ask questions is if it's someone making a debut or if I've missed a couple shows and anything's changed. But for the most part, I do just know everyone's stuff. But I've now got it to a point. For ring announcing, it's 2 bullet points. For commentary, especially working with newer people, they're freaking out about having their first ever match. They've got so much to remember. And then I come bounding in and going, all right, move names, character bio, character history, training. I don't want to overwhelm them. So when I can see that they've already got a million things on their mind, I just sort of lead them in. I go, look, I know you're planning your match. Just need a couple of bits. How long you've been training. If you could sum up your character in 3 words, what would they be? Do any of your moves have names? And then I leave them be. I can fill in the rest as the match is going on. I don't need to overwhelm them, overstimulate them. Being trusted to be a broadcaster for a show, you are the voice of the product. So it's a big responsibility to let people know what's going on and do the people working hard on screen a service. And again, that's something I'm very grateful I've been given so many different roles and opportunities in different brands and promotions that I'm now operating at a very high level, and I'm glad I get to service all these promotions. And New Wave Wrestling especially, I shout them out all the time, but something really special going on there. Do you know how hard it is to pack out a church in Cardiff monthly with no disrespect or no disservice? These are unknown wrestlers. These are brand new wrestlers. He's not bringing in these crazy imports. He's giving you raw Welsh talent or talent that's traveled to Wales to train, and he's created something, a brand that's so special there that it's selling out or nearly selling out on a monthly basis. And that is a testament to the work ethic of the trainees, but also just the ethos he's instilled at New Wave Wrestling. So New Wave Wrestling Academy, I'll always sing your praises because you're one of the best things about the scene right now.
Hey, wholeheartedly agree there, mate, as well. When I see what Mark Andrews, Splits McPins, and even Mark Haskins and Flash Morgan Webster do with all the schools there and the talent they're producing from the likes of Leon Cage, Shane Hooker, Duke Degnan, and like all these talented individuals. I've said it. I may be a Scotsman. I like Scottish pride, but the Welsh scene is the best in the UK, in my personal opinion. I think what all of that stuff's going down in Wales, it is phenomenal and truly impactful. why? And if you agree as well, what do you think about the Welsh scene? Is that it creates such amazing talent?
From seeing it firsthand, it is the camaraderie and the brotherhood, and just the fact that Welsh people in general, Wales in general, it's a very tight knit, close knit. Everyone knows everyone, and there is just this. There's just this natural friendliness which I think enables that. You know, I'm not trying to slag off the London scene or the British scene and saying we're the complete opposite way. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you really see it in the Welsh scene, and also it's the quality of the training trickling down. You know, if you're at the New Wave Academy, which is an amazing facility run by excellent trainers, there's no way you can't be good.
Mm-hmm.
And also, they have these incredible opportunities with promotions such as New Wave Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Chaos, just to name a couple. It's the trickle down effect. It's a good school run by good people, and I hope it stays this way. There isn't this dilution that we have, especially in London. I mean, I'm part of the problem. I'm guilty when I say that there's too many promotions in London. I helped run 2 of them. At one point, I helped run 4 at the same time. There's this dilution. I mean, we're getting more and more popping up in Cardiff and Swansea, but for the most part, they have it under control. The UK, despite being an island and being in the bottom 50th percentile when it comes to square mileage of country sizes, we in London alone we seem to have 5,000 wrestling promotions, and a lot of them are good. I run a couple of them. I'm not saying that stop going or some of them need to go, but we're just very there's so I'm not going to say too much, because too much wrestling, complaining that there's too much wrestling, there's too many job opportunities, wow, that's a terrible thing to complain about. I'm just saying that we're very oversaturated, we're very diluted, but there's a reason for it. It's because of the quality of training schools we have now. It used to be, you know, if you were lucky, you'd have one training school in your county and it would be open once a week and you could travel to it. Now in London, you've got all these fantastic schools, you know, especially, you know, Hustle Wrestling Training Academy, Head Drop Academy, good too. Wales, you've got New Wave Wrestling Academy. There are so many places you can train now. So that's why we just have so much wrestling. So we should be happy about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, maybe they all just like London because of the scenery. It's a nice city. I mean, 10.50 a pint. Bit out of my range, right?
No, don't get me started on the pints, mate.
Hey,
It's why I've had to cut down so much. Just financially, I can't justify it. You know, pints of Guinness, mortgage. Sometimes it's harder.
Hey, especially when they don't take my Scottish notes. They just like to really slap it in my face. They're like, no, your money's not legal. Come on, man. It's Chris, 20 quid note, just because it doesn't have, you know, the Queen on it. It just has, you know, Robert Burns on it. Just take it. It's legal tender. But
hey, your Scottish money's always welcome at Pro Wrestling Ceasefire. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm going to crack open the savings. It's going to be a good night. Oh, I'll love to see it. I'll love to see it. But obviously as well, those great opportunities in so many wrestling schools. You know, I speak to Scottish wrestlers who were around in the mid 2000s. They would always have to travel down south to find a wrestling school. Now we've got like 8 and 9 up here. And you hear it as well from a lot of the international talent that I've had on, that they want to come to the UK and experience our scene because they see the talent we produce. Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr., Danny Luna, Subculture, all those names and great individuals. What is it you think about the UK scene that creates these amazing stars?
I think the UK scene benefits from the exposure. I mean, it was getting really, really hot, and that's why WWE capitalized on it in 2016, 2017. We drew the attention of the largest wrestling company in the world. And you know, there's lots of schools on foot on that, you know, the good and the bad, but ultimately there are more eyes on the British scene that there ever have been, and they've stayed, they've remained. You know, the eyes that came for WWE UK have stayed for the Rev Pros, the Progresses, hopefully the Itchy Bands, and the New Wave Wrestlings. You know, so we benefit from. Well, also we benefit from just how many huge stars end up in WWE that do a service to us. You know, people see, you know, a Pretty Deadly, a Drew, a Pete Dunne, a Will Ospreay, a Joe Hendry, and they think, you know, where, you know, these British guys, like I can't think of any British wrestlers before these guys. Let me go see where they came from, and then all these back catalogs get explored, and you know, luckily the production quality has increased over the years. So, you know, it's that exposure that benefits us. We're, you know, the UK, you know, in some ways is a small pond, but it's full of fish that can wrestle. That's what I'm going to leave you with.
Okay, I'll take it. I like a good fish allegory. I do like fish and chips, and at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
It's a good delicacy for us Scots.
2 a.m. fish and
Obviously-
chips is quite a greasy fare. Like kebab, I can get. Fish and chips is a bit more seasidey rather than 2 a.m. messy, I would think.
Oh no! You're 2 a.m. in the town. You've just came out of a club. You go in right for the fish and chips or the battered sausage, but you leave the deep fried Mars bars for the tourists. That's.
If I didn't already feel sick at 2 a.m., I'd feel sick after a battered sausage at 2 a.m.
It's to feed out the weak. See who's gonna puke, and then you know, you're the weak one. You need to get more drink in you. That's how we. We're very particular with our drinking culture, and in the best of fun ways, of course. Obviously, you've gone around to many places in the world and done your job as ring announcer or broadcasting. I just want to highlight some of them as well. One I really want to highlight, obviously, is WrestleFest in Dubai, and I know you've done stuff for them in 2022. I've had Shaheen and Roxy who do stuff for the company, and it's a truly amazing scene. But obviously, in a place like Dubai, which it's so amazing and so different from the UK. When you went over and did that, was it kind of any culture shock on how they appreciated wrestling or your announcing or how they reacted to things?
One of my favorite crowds I've ever performed in front of. Dubai is like being dropped into GTA. It's unreal. I mean, no, not GTA in the guns and crime aspect. It's this big open world. Boom. Anything you want to eat is any cuisine you want to eat is like 5 minutes that way. Any activity you want to do, 5 minutes that way. You want to go around in a jet ski like I did. You want to jump in a Lambo. You want to go shoot something. Is unreal. It's the most fun I've had at a booking ever. It was unreal. But the crowd were fantastic and really connected to the specific product. Like I got there and did one of their shows. They must have been less than 10 shows in, but the fans already, you know, had attached to like specific characters and storylines, and they had signs made up. I'm really enjoying the resurgence of signs in wrestling. Signs are making a comeback. We're seeing some really creative ones out in the crowd now. But yeah, the WrestleFest fans really passionate, really honed in on the individual storylines and things that make DXB unique. Gosh, it's coming up to 3 years since I've worked for them. I would love to go back. I'm long overdue a character and some good old DXB vibes.
Hey Shaheen, mate, if you're listening, let's get this organized. Let's get the ball rolling.
Shaheen. Come on, you got my number, buddy. Pick up that phone.
Maybe he doesn't have credit. Maybe we might have to give him a SIM card. I mean,
he's got credit.
We could try. Obviously, in New Japan, you've done stuff when they've came over for Royal Quest. One particular thing I really want to highlight is you did the 10-bell salute for Antonio Inoki. Gentleman who's a historic for the Japanese scene, obviously with Giant Baba and Ricky Dozan within the past. To get that opportunity to honor a legend like that in UK soil representing New Japan, like, was that like a, oh shit, I am doing this moment?
Certainly was an oh shit moment. Biggest honor of my career by far. It was surreal to be doing a New Japan show that day and wake up to the news that you know, the founder, the great Antonio Inoki, had passed away. So there was that brief moment of shock, right? So my first thought was, oh, that is, you know, the locker room today is going to be really somber because you know, Tanahashi was there, Okada was there, and they, you know, you could tell that they were affected by it and upset. So my first thought was, I hope the New Japan locker room is okay. And then my second thought was, they normally do a 10 bell salute where, at the nearest show to someone passing, and that is today. And I got there on the day and was told that I'd be doing it, and I was blown away that they trusted me to do it, and I was so honored. And even getting to do not a speech, but just to say a few words to tell the fans what was happening, because it technically happened sort of before the show. I was really grateful for the trust they put in me for that, and then conducting the salute itself. Unbelievably nerve-wracking. It wasn't the New Japan ring bell. It was rickety and clanky, and my table had an uneven leg, and I just remember thinking, this, you cannot mess this up. This is the most important thing. And it was being filmed by a Japanese news crew. They were covering the event. So I've got the clip. I've been featured on Japanese TV conducting the salute. Sounds good on the clip, so I must have done a good job. But I remember in the moment just thinking, I don't think I took a breath the whole 10 counts. I was that locked in and focused. But such a huge honor, and something I'll always be grateful for New Japan. Something I'll always be grateful to New Japan for trusting me with such a monumentous moment. And they asked me when the salute was over. They said, and then you will announce his name one more time. And so I hope there's footage of it. I gave my best, great bellowing, Antonio Inoki. And then they played his music, Inoki Bumae. And whoa, I get goosebumps now just remembering it.
Jesus Christ. I can imagine the massive sigh of relief after that 10 bell and that rickety table was intact. And
yeah,
I can imagine as well when you were saying his name, it is the emotion coming out of, doing that monumentous thing to honor that legend, and then to say his name, really for the final time in some way. It lets the emotion out, right?
100%. And I mean, sadly, I've been present, been involved in a few 10 bell salutes in my time, and it's naturally, an emotional thing depending on your connection to the person. Someone like Antonio Inoki, I admire him, but I never had the pleasure of meeting the man or working with him. So I'm conducting the salute on one level, and then you look around, and Tanahashi, Okada, and multiple others, in tears. So you feel that emotion for them, and then there's other situations where I never thought I'd have to be at the 10 bell salute for one of my friends, but then one night in St. Neots, I find myself stood next to Connor Mills and all our friends, conducting one for our good friend Curtis, Mad Kurt. So that's from conducting one where I'm not as sad as everyone else involved, to trying as hard as I can to hold my tears in, and then being unable to, as was everyone else in the room. It's a naturally emotional affair, but it's beautiful as well. It's it's how we honor people in this business.
From all walks of life, anyone who steps into that ring, they put their trust in the fans to have that connection. And whether it was doing it for Antonio Anoki or Mad Kurt, they had that connection and that love from fellows in the locker room to the fans, and we honor that way of celebrating their life and their career in all aspects of life. I mean, it's the best way to honestly honor them. Obviously, with that New Japan show as well, you would have Zack Saber's first UK match in over 2 years, the FTR versus Aussie Open match. Was there a particular favorite match of the show in the way you announced it, or just a match that particularly stuck with you?
Well, the FTR Aussie Open match blew everyone's minds, and with good reason. So I'm very proud of my calls for that one. I wish I could have done it in ring style, but because of time constraints, we had to keep the show rolling. But very proud of my introduction for that one. Loved how long it went as well, because the thing, Japanese audiences are so used to the time calls. When we do them over here, they're a bit more of a novelty. To begin with, some people find them confusing, some people outright hate them, some people make comments every time you do them. But as the show went on, people got more adapted to it, and then it got to the point, I can't remember how long this tag match went. I think it went around the 45 minute mark. And we do it in 5 minute increments. So, the first time call, 5 minutes passed, no one bats an eyelid. The match is amazing. At one point, I think I announced 30 minutes gone or 35, and the crowd they go, is it going to go to a draw? This is amazing. I can't believe. Oh, and also, do you know how fried people's attention spans are? To get them to pay attention to like a 30+ minute wrestling match is no easy feat. So I was really proud of the time calls in that one. A particular match from that show, I remember Yota Tsuji. I mean, we always knew he was good, but I think that night especially, he opened a lot of eyes and blew people's minds as just to how good he is and was going to become. And I mean, we clearly see that now. He is absolutely killing it in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm very glad I got to see him perform in the Tokyo Dome this year. From being with him in St. Neots to seeing him at the Tokyo Dome. I mean, I can say that about a few wrestlers, but I love seeing it. And another calling Zach's first match back in the UK after 2 years away was really something special. I even said that on the mic, and that got adulation as well. So 2 calls I'm really proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's fun. I've never been to a New Japan show, but when Forbidden Door comes this year, I'm booking. I'm right down there. I'll take the 1050 pints because I want to experience that, and I think I'm going to truly enjoy it, especially with Tanahashi's last year as well. I'm front row. I want to get for that because that's going to be monumental. Obviously, with that, it's AEW. They do their all weekends. They've done it for All In for the last 2 times, and the first year you were obviously at the Rev Pro show where Le Champion, Chris Jericho, came out and attacked the Billy Goat. If you may reveal the curtain a wee bit, did you know that was the plan, or was that fully surprised you didn't know what was happening with that moment with Ospreay and Jericho on the Rev Pro show?
I'd heard murmurings, but I hadn't seen the man all day. So, but in wrestling, you'll hear 3 different versions of what's going to happen, and then sometimes none of them happen. So, I also, when I'm commentating, I like to not be told what's happening. I like to have my notes and my info, but I like to react naturally. So, even though I was on the call when Chris Jericho attacked Will Ospreay and he had to run past my desk to ambush him, I never met the man because he was in and out the building all the time. I was I don't know. It's hard to explain it without showing you a photo, but doing commentary at the Copper Box, you are trapped behind a table, behind a curtain. Once you sat down, you can't get up. So I couldn't have said hi to him if I wanted to. But yeah, as soon as I saw a man in a Bushi mask deliver a Judas effect, I had a hunch who it was.
I've seen the clip on your Instagram. It really is a tight-knit area. You ain't leaving there, not even for a toilet break. So, I mean, hope you had a chamber pot or something. That just
I have boosted the brightness on that clip quite a lot as well. So just to give you an idea of the conditions we were working with.
Oh, come on, mate. Hey, look, I'll send you I've got a table lamp somewhere. I'll make sure you can have it. Carry on. It's in your bag everywhere. You'll be sorted.
That's a commentary essential. I tell you what, that's a tip for some commentators out there. Travel with your own commentary light.
Hey, Amazon's a joy, absolutely. Obviously, going a wee bit over to Ireland with OTT. You would obviously commentate Moxley's match at OTT as well. I've seen Moxley in person wrestle, and I feel like I get a presence of him, like that, a violence, aggression. That like, oh, this is a presence from this man. And for yourself as well, with somebody like Moxley, how do you feel about his match? Do you feel like that presence as well when you commentate his matches?
He has an aura. And I think in wrestling, that is what sells the most tickets, whether you know that's what it's called or not. Wrestling is selling the idea that 2 people are fighting for money. A lot of people try to be tough, want to be tough guys. Moxley isn't that. He's the real deal. He's legit. He has the aura. He has the presence. and he's incredible. But that comes when you have a body of work as extensive as his. But his entrance at Fight Club is one of my favorite things I've experienced in wrestling. Real just sense of euphoria from the crowd. He came from the back of the venue at the bar, made his way through the crowd, wild thing blaring, unbelievable. Match of the year candidate with Trent Seven. Yeah, he's the real deal. You can't fake that. You can't fake Jon Moxley.
God, no, you can never fake Mox. I mean, man's a presence, even if he's going around with a briefcase attacking people and attacking Cope in Australia. Digress. I will never try and get on the man's wrong side. Yeah. But obviously as well, your body of work speaks for itself, and then you have that connection. You get your own fans, because I've seen from your Instagram somebody did a painting of you as well.
Yes, that's the wonderful Donna, who I believe has now finally officially adopted the moniker of the Brit Res portrait painter. I've got 3 fantastic. No, I believe I've got 4. I've got 4 fantastic portraits from Donna. Proudly hung up. Sadly, not in this room. Otherwise, I'd show you. Still need to get a frame for the most recent one she's done for me. But I've got so many things to frame. I've got posters. I've got these wonderful pictures from Donna. I'm in the middle of a house move as well. I'm getting ready for Ceasefire and Ichiban. So all these things get pushed further and further down the list. But yeah, Donna's artwork is absolutely fantastic, and the rate at which she's churning them out, it seems to be about 2 a day. And I know for a lot of people, it's a real point of pride. And you'll go backstage and see someone holding their first Donna painting, and you'll make a point. You'll go, you got your first Donna. That's how you know you're doing well. So shout out to Donna. Absolutely love my portraits, especially I know the one you're referring to. It's the one of a backstage portrait with Mills at Chaos. It's fantastic. It's hung up downstairs on my wall.
Absolutely amazing, man. On it, it's a. I can see the picture from my notes just now. It's an absolute amazing picture. Do you ever get like an out of body experience when people come up to you and say, "Oh, I'm a fan of your work," or they give you gifts or anything like that? Is it kind of a weird out of body experience?
It is, because I just never assume they're at the merch table to speak to me. I mean, I'm often never at the merch table. I'm often making my way through sort of bar. But on the occasions I do get stopped, it is so lovely, and it's such a privilege. Really makes my day when people take the time to compliment my work, or even if they want a photo of me. That blew my mind. Someone made a beeline for me at a Royal Quest, and I thought they were trying to get to a wrestler, or they wanted me to pass something to someone, but they took a photo with me, and we've stayed in touch. It was such a nice moment. And even our WrestleForce have some wonderful fans as well. At Christmas, they're always giving us chocolates and cards, and it's really touching. And sometimes in wrestling we get very jaded. We'll do these 7-hour drives and just get home at like 5 a.m. just tired and achy and miserable, and but then an experience like that will really put a smile on your face and remind you why you're doing it. It's because we have such a wonderful fan base, and we appreciate all the support they give us.
Absolutely, man. Truly, honestly, even when I'm working deathmatch shows and I get blood on this jacket and I'm like, oh fuck, you enjoy it afterwards when everyone's just having a good time chatting with fans, and like it's the fun of it. But this year's just started. We're only in the 2nd month, but you've been busy. You've been busy. You've been over in Japan doing things, my friend. I mean, first off, congratulations for Japan and all. That's amazing to do. And we've got to talk about Noah. We've got to talk about Noah, right? Before we talk about obviously the big match that happened on the show, Noah as a company has a lot of history. Probably one of the most important companies to start up in the early 2000s with like some Misawa, Kenta Kobashi, Kenta. To be able to announce for an esteemed company like Noah is a bucket list thing, right?
Yes, I can't believe that's how I started my year. It's how I rung in the new year with Noah, the new year from Nippon Budokan. Absolutely unreal experience. Eternally grateful to Pro Wrestling Noah, Wrestling Universe, and Cyberfight for putting their trust in me with their biggest show of the year. and throwing me in at the deep end. Again, no warming up. Just here you go. Biggest show of the year. Shinsuke Nakamura, Omos, Kiyomiya, Kenta, Keno, Ozawa. It's all you, buddy. Unreal experience. Noah, genuinely the first company outside of WWE that I heard of when I was a kid. When me and my brother got into wrestling, we just thought wrestling was a WWE. We didn't know anything that wasn't WWE. Then we learned about WCW from the Eddie Guerrero DVD. And then on Google Video, we didn't even know it was called Pro Wrestling Noah. We called it the promotion with the green mat. And we'd watch these crazy Misawa and Kobashi matches. And speaking of Misawa, I went and saw his robes in person in Tokyo on sale for, I believe, the equivalent of £400. Do you know how close I was? I was this close.
Mate,
I was this close. Yeah. But yeah, so to work for a company that has produced some of the best wrestling of the 2000s, some of the most definitive wrestling, a company that revolutionized the junior heavyweight style, and to meet people who I used to be obsessed with. I very sheepishly went up to Shuji Kondo and used Google Translate to tell him that when I used to wrestle on the trampoline with my brother, I stole all Shuji Kondo's moves because I used to watch. There was a YouTube channel called Suicidal Dragon that used to do these top 10 move compilations of like the American Indies and Noah, and he did a top 10 moves of Shuji Kondo. So I used to copy the Gorilla Clutch. And I went up to Shuji Kondo with like bad Google Translate and told him, and he went, you owe me money. So I absolutely, loved my tour with Noah, and I'm looking forward to going back.
Oh, 100%. I'll be supporting you from the pub 2-3 a.m. because those shows are very, very late for us. But hey, I'll be.
Oh, thank you very much.
Rooting the flag, brother. But obviously, Shinsuke Nakamura came out and he was the WWE United States Champion. Not a lot of people get the opportunity to say that they've announced a WWE Champion on commentary. That is a belt that goes back to the past, had great champions, and it's a WWE Championship. You got to announce a WWE Champion. How the fuck does that feel?
Surreal, and it's the clip I've put online that my family have paid the most attention to. I've shown them, all these huge venues I've done, huge shows I've done, and they're impressed and supportive. But, because of the monopoly WWE has, a lot of people, they only know about WWE. So in this clip where he has the WWE United States Championship, and I say the words WWE, then they go, oh, so this wrestling thing, you are doing well. I'm like, well, I've been doing well for a while now. But yeah, I couldn't believe I was doing it. It was surreal. I'm so glad I managed to capture the footage of me saying it. And I mean, what an entrance they had, the traditional drummers, you talk about aura, Nakamura. That's it, man. And I believe I've put it on online. There's a side-by-side of me posing with my toy US Championship belt. Let's pretend I'm 10 in that photo and not an embarrassingly older age. I think I actually am. So to have that photo and then to be posing with the real thing with Shinsuke Nakamura backstage at Nippon Budokan, that's all I can say.
Hey, I think you need to buy a replica of the WWE shop and get it behind you, framed. I mean, you've announced the belt. I mean, hey, why not?
Oh man, if I started a collection of every belt I'd announced, I'd be net negative. I wouldn't be making any money from wrestling.
Yeah, I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah.
But obviously that tour as well, what you do, Marigold as well, and Marigold's quite a more newer company as well. When you go into somewhere new that's really starting up, do you want to do your best to can maintain the style they're presenting, or do you want to try and new style it? How do you approach when you approach a commentating for a new company like Marigold in Japan?
The thing with Marigold is that it's a very set style and it's a new company. So I don't want to come in and rock the boat straight away, which is why I'm very glad I was able to sit under the learning tree of Stuart Fulton, Stu. My God, what a commentator and just a brilliant guy as well. Really helped ease me in to not just Marigold, but Noah as well. So to sit with him and to learn from him was really eye-opening. The level of detail in his notes was awe-inspiring. So that's now something I've started doing in my work. Now I've come back to the UK. But yeah, commentating that Marigold show and getting to announce a twin star title change, very grateful for that opportunity. And the thing with Marigold, you know, is that it openly prides itself on the number of rookies on its roster, and you watch their journey. You watch them from day one to the day they win the title. So you know, when you're commentating on those early matches, you know, you're not trying to hide anything. It's not smoke and mirrors. You're openly saying, you know, rookie year, this is match number 3. You know, there's holes in their game they need to learn from, but you know, every loss is also a lesson. And I really enjoyed commentating those Marigold matches, and I'm looking forward to doing more in the future.
Hey, absolutely. I mean, hey, you've done the Nippon Budokan, legendary arena. You've done the Kurken Hall, legendary. When you're doing Tokyo Dome?
I mean, I currently have no plans for January 2026, so we'll see.
Oh, come on, do it. And then you can get a Meltzer 6-star. I mean, come on. That's going to be... It's the fun of it. You know, you never know. But I know you attended the Tokyo Dome as a fan for Wrestle Dynasty and Wrestle Kingdom this year as well, correct?
I did, yeah. My first time at the Tokyo Dome, I was at both nights.
Wow. I mean, okay, I got to ask, how was it like seeing Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega in person?
I think it is the best match I've ever seen live. There's a reason it broke the internet in the way it did. There's a reason it had Tanahashi weeping on air. It was pro wrestling, and you know, I'm lucky that I've spent so much time with Gabe over the years. Fun fact, when he had to go and get his visa from the Japanese embassy, obviously he lives in Nottingham, you know, to get to the Japanese embassy in London for 9 a.m. is next to impossible. So he stayed around mine that night to get his visa the next day. And you know, we've spent a lot of time together over the years. Actually, one of my first nights in Tokyo, he took me out for dinner, which I was really grateful for, because you know, I was lost in translation, you know, and to watch Gabe, you know, this this cool guy from Nottingham just like order from the menu in fluent Japanese blew my mind. So happy to see the success he had. It's so deserved. He's not just fantastic in the ring, he's a fantastic person outside the ring, and to see him openly talk about the highs and lows, especially the lows, and then to see him, you know, he might have lost that match with Kenny Omega, but he was the winner of Wrestle Kingdom. Let's be honest. What were people talking about coming out of Wrestle Kingdom? You know, Zach had 2 fantastic matches, but people were talking about Gabe Kidd. Yeah. And yeah, he's flying the flag of the UK. He's flying it high and tight.
Absolutely. I mean, even the reaction when he took off for his gear and he had the New Japan lion on it and people reacted in that arena. I mean, they've got a connection with him, and I cannot wait to see what he does for Forbidden Door. I mean, give me him and Moxley. Give me him. I think that would be fucking awesome. But yeah, I don't book the matches. That's TK's business. But we've talked a lot of great things on this show, Gio, but let's get into Pro Wrestling Ceasefire. An amazing company, obviously, that you started with Chuck Mambo. I'd love to know the history. You know, what was it that you went into wanting to start Ceasefire?
It's because of my friendship with Mambo and seeing how passionate he is, and just seeing an opportunity that no one else had taken advantage of. You know, we saw that Gabriel Fuerza and a group of wrestlers in Canada had run a show, you know, a Palestine-themed, Gaza-themed show, raising money to help. And we just thought that was incredible. incredible and brave of them. And there wasn't even a whisper of someone doing that over in the UK. You know, so I thought if we put together Mambo's passion, and I have the logistical know-how. Let's see if it's possible before we jump the gun. And so I broached the idea to Mambo. I mean, Mambo, he'll tell you this himself. He's notoriously a terrible texter, terrible communicator. You'll get an answer to your message in 3 business days, and it won't really actually be what you asked, but you at least get some sort of reply. This Mambo, straight away, I'm in. So I immediately got, looking for a venue, and shout out Chandler Hall and the wonderful people that run it. It's perfect for our needs. I'd never heard of it. I had a list of venues in my radar that I went through, but none of them seemed to fit. Couldn't get them on a Thursday. But yeah, Chandler Hall, we've made it our little home away from home, and it just came about pretty quickly. And then at show 1, the wonderful Bo Bells just took it upon herself to come along and help out and dig in and tuck in. And the next day I texted her and said, "Thank you so much. We want you as a member of the team full time." We've since added Charlie Jameson, who's excellent too. And of course, we have the wonderful Zuby and Momo, who are at every show, and we joined them on the marches as well. It's just a great team. With a team that good, it can't really fail. And, we'd be lying if we said we weren't apprehensive at first about, backlash or like, will people even come? And first show sold out, packed in there. The atmosphere was incredible. And, a lot of people say maybe the most talked about show of All In Weekend. Kanji vs Jordan Breaks, one of the most talked about matches of All In Weekend. On the independent side of things. So from something that started as a nervous idea to be brought to life and supported the way it was really fulfilling. And from Mambo and myself and Bo and Charlie and Zuby and Momo, we're just so grateful for everyone's support, because without the fans, it's not anything. It's 6 people in an empty room. That doesn't raise any money for UNICEF. But we're at £3,000 raised for UNICEF now, and for Lebanese Red Cross. No idea what the total is going to be after Graptivism on Thursday, 20th of February, but let's see how much we can raise. It's amazing that we've raised £3,000 so far, and if we could get that into the double digits, that would be really affirming.
Yeah, absolutely. You're raising money for a good cause, and there's the passion behind the fans. They love it. If people are watching this and they want to, maybe they can't attend the show, but they want to give money in other ways, is there, a shop they could buy, a Ceasefire merch, or is there a donation? What ways could people help out if they can't attend a show?
If you can't attend in person, but you still want to support us, we have an online merchandise store. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, and friendship bracelets made by wonderful members of our community. That is Pro Wrestling Ceasefire.bigcartel.com. Excuse me, I'll do that again. That is Pro Wrestling Ceasefire.bigcartel.com. You can also support us with Ko-Fi or Ko-fi or Coffee. I mean, the gimmick of the website is you give people money to buy a coffee, but it's spelled Kofi. So I imagine it's coffee. Anyway, we have an account on this website that's spelled Kofi. Look for Pro Wrestling Ceasefire. The links are on all our social media channels, and you can donate. You can donate to our account there. That goes straight into the running costs. That helps us hire the hall, the ring, pay the wrestlers, organize the drinks that we sell. And it's thanks to all these little donations building up that we've been able to donate £3,000 to UNICEF UK and the Lebanese Red Cross.
Stellar, mate. It's absolute stellar, and I'm sure people are going to be loving to give to a great cause as well. Something I would love to know is, Ceasefire is doing great things, and there's other great companies like, Riot Cabaret, Rev Pro, we mentioned, Progress, Hustle, North, which is further up north in the name. Would you ever love to do like a crossover show where, a lot of promotions gather together and put on a great show for a great cause? Do you think that could be something to be interesting?
100%. It's something that's in the early stages right now. This is something we want to take it around the country. We want to work with as many people as possible. There's no shortage on talent in the UK. And as well as our shows in London are doing, it is a diluted scene, and we would like to take it around the country, where there's other passionate fans. If you're a promoter and you're watching this, get in touch. We're completely open to working with people. The whole theme of these events is unity and working together.
Hey, promoters, you've heard it here first. Get on the emails, and I know you don't like them, but answer emails. Emails are very important. Or we could do a letter. We've got stamps galore.
Yeah.
We have ways of communication. Obviously, as well, another company that's doing stuff this year, which is quite important as well, is Ichiban, which will be involved in ways that haven't been revealed as of yet. But obviously, the main thing of it is Meiko Satomura's last sort of matches before she retires. For her and her career, a lot of people probably know her mostly from her NXT UK Women's Championship reign, but she's done a lot more, and she's a phenomenal wrestler. What would it mean for you to be a part of that for her last batch of matches?
I can't believe it's happening. It feels like a Mad Lib, gone out of control. It's monumental. She's only going to have one last match in the UK, and to be the person that gets to announce it, to call it, is surreal. It's another huge accolade. I'm so grateful for. It's when I first started out 9 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be doing something like this, something as important and as big as this. And I think the match itself is perfect. Every person in that match has history with Meiko and attachment to Meiko. Millie and Meiko have squared off multiple times, including in Japan. Nina has always wanted to get her hands on Meiko, thought it was never going to happen, and now at the last second gets her dream match. Rain Leverkusen, someone who thought not just that she wasn't going to be able to ever get in the ring with Meiko. There was a point where she thought she was never going to be able to get in the ring again. I've never seen someone fight to come back from an injury so hard. So it really is the most fitting way I can think to send off Meiko's career here in the UK. I love the tagline, Final Sting, The Last of Satomura. It's going to be an emotional affair. It's going to be an incredible match. It's absolutely stacked. In one ring at the same time, you've got the Progress Women's World Champion, the Hustle Wrestling Champion, the first ever Sendai Girls Triple Crown winner in Millie McKenzie, and the reigning Sendai Girls World Champion, and the living legend of Joshi Puroresu, the reason this show exists, Meiko Satomura, in the ring at the same time. Have you ever seen a more fitting main event? I think not.
Hard to disagree with that, bud. Sadly, work won't let me off, so I can't travel down south, but it's going to be an exceptional show, and I'm sure it's going to be great things coming out of Ichiban, and of course, Pro Wrestling Ceasefire. Gio, mate, it's been a pleasure to have you here on the Soul Session, but before we wrap up, two final questions. One, obviously, you've advertised on your Instagram you're available for WrestleMania bookings, which is obviously in Las Vegas. I want to know, if you got eyes on a certain company you would love to do work for during that Vegas period, maybe a GCW collective. I mean, Stardom's over there. What's on your mind, bud?
Well, I tell you what, we spoke earlier about my ring announcing days for Progress all the way back in Freedom's Road. I've noticed that Simon Miller is competing, so he won't be available to host. I'm just putting it out there. They'll be in Vegas. I'll be in Vegas. I'm pretty damn good at my job, and I've been working closely with Progress in the organization of this Ichiban show. So just putting it out there, something I think that makes sense to me.
I mean, hey, I've had Lee on this show before. If we see you over, a crabs table or something like that, and you've had a bit too many margaritas, we can try and grab you and bring you back, get you all dressed up, ready to go. We'll get you prepared, son. We'll get you absolutely prepared. I mean, it's Vegas. It's going to be a fun time. It's the city of sin. And obviously, final question before we wrap up, my friend. We've mentioned such great, phenomenal talent across the UK, from Wales to London to Scotland to Northern Ireland. Is there any particular names on your radar you would love to bring in for Pro Wrestling Ceasefire?
Oh, great question. I mean, I'll give you two answers. I'll give you one of the more obvious answers people may be expecting, and I'll give you the name of someone who may be under the radar, but I think he's going to be making waves in the next couple of years. Would love to get Zazaya and or Leon Slater on a Pro Wrestling Ceasefire show. I think they're absolutely phenomenal. There's a reason they're so highly talked about. In terms of someone who I think is currently an unknown but will be making waves soon, Tommy Vril down in New Wave Wrestling. He has a uniqueness. He cuts interesting promos in 2025. Do you know how rare that is? I'm very excited to be watching his career unfold, and down the line, he's someone I want to see working in more places in the UK, branching out, and not just being limited to the Welsh and Southwest scene. As great as it is, it's a fantastic scene. It's probably my favorite to work, but I want to see Tommy Vril in more places when he's ready.
I think it truly just speaks to UK wrestling. We're the scene that could, and we're a scene with a lot of personality. That's it at the end of the day, brother. Well, folks, as I would say always, but before we get into that, obviously, if you love what you've heard from Gio and you want to see his career, I'll include a link to his Instagram down below. As well, I'll include a link down to Pro Wrestling Ceasefire's Instagram page, so you can click on all their links, buy some merch, donations, any way you can to support a great company for a great cause. I implore you to do so, folks. It's a great thing to support. Well, as I say, folks, as a Scotsman, finish up your pints, put your chairs away, and thank you as always for tuning in for another episode of the Soul Sessions.
Now I'm out the hill and two, gonna live like animals do. No more laws and no more rules.